I'd like to, but honestly I cannot. After researching the issues surrounding the current controversy of whether Jesus existed or not, a mythical Jesus versus Jesus just a man and not divine versus Jesus fully God fully man, I've come away believing that at best a Jesus, possibly many Jesuses, did exist but were ordinary men, not gods. One or two may have been crucified as seditionists against Rome, some may have been apocalyptic preachers, a few may have been shaman faith healers, and all these characteristics got woven into the character we know as Jesus Christ today. Blend it with some syncretism, weaving dying rising pagan deities into the character, and it's pretty obvious the story that appears in the four Gospels 100 years after his crucifixion were a mishmash of Hellenized myths of a man-god born to a virgin impregnated by a god, attracting a following, mystical number 12 apostles, 12 zodiacs, performing miracles, getting crucified on a hill, rising from the dead and ascending into heaven. No. That would be unethical and immoral, and such a god as that, if it existed, ought to morally be opposed. A god that creates bone cancer in children has no business being worshipped by good people in broad daylight. Fortunately, the history rules out the biblical narrative. For example, we know the book of Exodus was a forgery, because at the time it describes, the land called Egypt was an empire that went up to Greece and down to Sudan. All of Exodus, even 40 years in the campaign of Joshua, wouldn't have taken them over Egypt's border, because they also owned Canaan and apparently employed the Israelites, among other Canaanites, as mercenaries. According to their own writing about it, the parts that we know about historically make other parts look even more like lies and propaganda. For example, David is the earliest apparently historical character in the Old Testament, but in actual history, Israel had a rather productive and bustling kingdom with a king that was definitely not him at the time, and not King Saul either, and he, meanwhile, has his only mention at the bottom of a list of names of warlords from the backwater Judea between Israel and Philistia. But if he's one of the few writers, the story can be any way he likes, can't it? Teeth like sheep indeed. We know it isn't true scientifically. Failure to mention the dinosaurs, germs, or the nature of planetary cosmology. Flat Earth? Wrong value of pi? Take your pick, and because of the internal contradictions, even Matthew chapter 1 verse 1 has a lineage of Jesus through Joseph that directly contradicts the other one. At Luke chapter 3 verse 23, check out BibViz Project, Bible Contradictions, Misogyny, Violence, and Accuracies interactively visualized too. So basically, because any god that might be can't be that one, and because morality and ethics require serious attention to detail and a proper relationship with reality so you can get them done effectively and correctly, I have to reject Christianity and its associated mythology as a huge waste of time for the human species that ought to be ended, insofar as it is sought as a way to interpret the world and define morality. Although I don't think there should be forced deconversions, so much as an end to celestial panhandling, like tax exemptions for churches and, under God, making us look stupid on our own money, or literally breaking apart, one nation, indivisible, in our own pledge of allegiance. The prophets of the Old Testament such as Abraham, Noah and Jonah never preached that God is part of a Trinity, and did not believe in Jesus as their Savior. Their message was simple: there is one God and He alone deserves your worship. It is not logical for God to send prophets for thousands of years with the same essential message, only to suddenly change it, claim that He is now a part of a Trinity, and to stipulate the belief in the divinity of Jesus to be saved. The truth is, Jesus preached the same message as all the prophets in the Old Testament. There is a passage in the Bible that really emphasizes this core message. A man came to Jesus and asked, "Which is the first commandment of all?" Jesus answered, "The first of all the commandments is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." Mark chapter 12 verses 28 to 29. So, the greatest commandment, the most important belief according to Jesus, is that God is one. If Jesus was God, He would have said, "I am God, worship me." Instead, He merely repeated a verse from the Old Testament confirming that God is one. This aligns with the mission of Jesus, as taught in Islam, where Jesus was sent to the children of Israel to confirm the message of the past prophets, to believe in the one true God. Allah, God, says, and when Jesus brought clear proofs, He said, "Indeed, God, He is my Lord and your Lord. So worship Him alone. This is the only straight path." Quran 43-63-64.